You know, I've said for months that I was not gonna be emotionally ready for this. Damn it, James Gunn, you got me. You got me good. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. If this is not my most anticipated movie of 2023 going into things, this is certainly up there in the top 3, if it's not the most anticipated, because I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. This team right here is what really propelled my fandom of the MCU full-fledged. I've said many times I was more of a casual viewer when Phase 1 was going on, but once the Guardians were introduced into the picture, I was sold, and I was in. And I love both those first two movies, and James Gunn is returning to write and direct this epic finale here. Peter Quill, once again played by the capable Chris Pratt, is still reeling from the loss of Gamora, and he must rally his team to defend the universe and protect one of their own. And yes, that synopsis is as vague as you probably want it to be, because this review is going to be a traditional spoiler-free review that you guys are traditionally used to over here, so you guys are safe with me for right now. So I want to make sure that you guys go into this knowing as little as possible. One thing I will tell you for sure, though, this movie was freaking incredible. And this is coming from me, who's seen the movie only once at this time, but I'm seeing this movie again on Tuesday, and I might know the answer to this question for sure once that comes around. But man, I think that might have been better than the first one. This is coming from someone who is a huge fan of the first movie. Came out my senior year of high school. Everybody was raving about the Guardians. Everybody was singing the Awesome Mix Volume 1 as they were going in between classes. It was a hit. And now we have to say goodbye to these guys as James Gunn writes off the last of these characters and goes off into the DC sunset, figuratively. And man, did he do a great job with this movie. This is Volume 3, above all else, this is a movie that really freaking toys with your emotions. Because James Gunn has written so many freaking red herrings into this script that it's almost like, God, just rip the Band-Aid off, dude. But for 2.5 hours, he keeps you captivated. And another advantage that this has, it doesn't have to set up these characters and how weird they are. We already know and love every single character. We've been through 2 movies and a holiday special with them at this point. And I think, with all due respects to Vin Diesel and his Fast and Furious movies and everything like that, I mean, who am I kidding? I can't respect those. Those are shit. But the Guardians really have become like another family for us in a lot of ways. Like, we love going to the theater, we love going to the crossover films even, and seeing these guys come in. And Chris Pratt, 2023 just seems to be his year as well. Just came out with Mario not even a month ago, and now here he is with another bona fide smash hit as a star. And he does a really great job in this film. It's a very courageous performance this time around. Because Star-Lord as a character is going through a lot of depressing shit in this film, but the writing is clever enough to make it as darkly comedic as possible. And I think that's something that'll make Volume 3 stand out from its other predecessors. The darkness. James Gunn has certainly had a lot of practice with these rated R DC properties like the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker to be as dark as possible with these guys. And I think it was a very refreshing and very welcome change of pace in terms of the comedy. Because yeah, this is a lot of the silly Guardians comedy that we're all accustomed to by this point. But there's a certain edge to it this time around, because these characters have seen through it all and they've been through it all. And then when they come across the villains like they do in this film that I'll touch on, like, like it's bound to be more darkly comedic. And all these performances are so freaking good. Chris Pratt, I've already talked about. Zoe Saldana, once again, is a freaking badass. This is a Gamora variant who time traveled from 2014 after the events of Endgame. And you have a really interesting and captivating dynamic between her and Star-Lord in this movie that I feel like might have been missing from the other two. Karen Gillan as Nebula gives a very awesome performance as well. Man, oh man, let's talk about Drax the Destroyer also. Dave Bautista has grown to be such an amazing performer. And a lot of people look at actors like him, The Rock, John Cena, and they kind of frown upon that because they're like, you're coming from a completely different form of entertainment. What makes you think you're good for cinema? The Rock is proving those doubters wrong. John Cena continues to prove those doubters wrong. And Dave Bautista, I think, just might be the greatest wrestler turned actor ever. Because all due respect to The Rock, Dave Bautista feels like a much pickier actor when it comes to his subject matter. And you can see it really paying off for him as he masters the craft. Loved him in Knock at the Cabin earlier this year. I've said for a while that that was my favorite Bautista performance. He might have overtaken it here, and I know a lot of people hate what they did with Drax in Volume 2, just making him the comic relief and the stupid one of the group. Bautista sells it. I don't care. It's hilarious. And I love the relationship he and Mantis are sharing and how that evolved since the holiday special. You also gotta talk about Groot, who's my parents' favorite, and Groot is this big, swole, teenage college jock type now. And man, he's just as funny as he usually is. Yet a big tree with that build still comes across freaking adorable. But I will say, the heart and soul of Volume 3, and I'm so happy to say this because he's been my favorite character pretty consistently through this whole trilogy, Rocket freaking Raccoon, baby. And Bradley Cooper continues to prove why he is a master at his craft. Without getting too deep into spoilers, this is a script that digs way deeper into Rocket's backstory than we're used to. And it just makes you feel so much more sympathy for this little cyborg raccoon thing holding a machine gun. This concept looked very silly in Volume 1, and he was just so larger than life and out there and funny. And with the over-the-top voice and everything like that, Rocket Raccoon was a standout. I'm working on it, gang. But across the board, all these performers, so freaking good. Klementieff as Mantis is so freaking awesome in this. Love the introduction of a lot of these villainous characters. We were teased Adam Warlock at the end of Volume 2, which I don't think is necessarily a spoiler per se, but he is played by Will Poulter in this film. And oh my god, was he funny. I was not expecting to laugh at him as much as I did, and I'll just leave it at that for right now. You also have the High Evolutionary in this movie, who's played by Chukwudi Iwuji, a James Gunn vet after the Peacemaker series. I want to punch this guy in the fucking mouth. I'll save my thoughts as to why for the spoiler review once I have my special guests with me and everything, but good lord. Top tier Marvel villain for sure. Guys, if you're a fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy and you're a fan of the MCU, I think you should absolutely go and support this movie as many times as you can. This is something that I'm looking forward to revisiting many times on the big screen, many times on Blu-ray. And to those of you watching who might think it's cool to hate on the MCU still after all this crap they've put out over the past year, all this content, all this overload, I don't want to hear it anymore. It's over. Because if James Gunn can put out a movie in the MCU, and if Kevin Feige can overlook a project that is still so freaking ambitious like this, like I don't want to hear the hate anymore. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 absolutely lives up to the hype. It is epic in every way. It is hilarious. It is heartwarming. It is emotional. It really is a phenomenal send-off for a crew that has started to really feel like family to me. And I know that's really silly saying that because they're just on the big screen and everything. But it's like, I know these people, and I relate to them, and I know these creatures. It's not going to be weird seeing this team together anymore, man. Now, you can nitpick this movie to death. Some people might look at the non-linear structure and think that it's a little bit confusing. A lot of people might look at the big, gigantic explosions and think it looks exactly like any other Marvel movie. James Gunn has such a natural finesse behind the camera. It feels like he was born to make comic book cinema. Because if you want further proof, I mean, if the first two Guardians movies are not enough proof for you guys, if the Suicide Squad isn't enough proof, this whole project that he put together and the way he directs the action, like, a lot of people wish that they could do it like James Gunn. There is one epic sequence towards the top of the third act, and again, I'm trying to be as vague as possible. I'm not going to give away the song that this sequence is set to, but James Gunn does that whole sequence all in one shot. And it's like, you can't really teach that anywhere. Before I forget, Awesome Mix Volume 3, can't wait to buy that one on CD. What else is there to say, guys? I love the Guardians of the Galaxy with all my heart. Volume 3 lived up to the hype in every facet. This is gonna stand as one of my favorite movies of the year, I'm sure. And honestly, after seeing it a second time on Tuesday, it might still stand the test of time as one of my favorite Marvel movies. And it's crazy me saying this and sitting here right now after gushing all this love about Volume 1, but Volume 3 might have been better than the original. Which honestly, a movie that's this good 6 years after the release of Volume 2, James Gunn wanted to make sure this was done properly. And I think he proved himself a master, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 an A+. Damn, it feels so good to say that about a Marvel movie again. But let me know what you thought of Volume 3 down in the comments section below. And stay tuned for my Spoiler City video, which I will be bringing on a very, very special guest to get way in depth about this. And let me know if you think this movie is going to stand in your favorite MCU entries up to this point. And if you like discussing all things geeky, all things Marvel, this channel is the place to be. So do consider becoming a subscriber, and please tap that like button on your way out. Really helps with the algorithm and helps get this content out there to more lovely viewers like you. Guys, y'all are the best. Please go and support this movie this weekend and beyond. It fully deserves it. The Guardians deserve it. Really feels good to sit here doing what I love with you guys when I'm given such goodness like this. But y'all are the best. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.